The starting point, I'm reading a book by Buzz Aldrin, and as you know, Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk on the moon after Neil Armstrong. And in case you're interested, the book is called Magnificent Desolation. And just have a look at the screen in front of you, and you'll see the first human footprint on the moon. Buzz Aldrin became Buzz Aldrin when he was thrust into a foreign territory and showed his leadership. Buzz Aldrin could have played a victim. Neil Armstrong could have played a victim. They could have talked about the dangers, the foreign substances. They could have lost their lives, all the change that they had to experience, standing in the unknown. And instead, rather than showing victimhood in any way, they showed leadership. And they absolutely made history. And to me, it's still, an inspirational force of what humankind can do. I wanted you to think about reimagining your future, and I want you to, as much as possible, think about that moonwalk and that first footprint on the moon and how difficult it was and how challenging it was. And to please remember, we get to show leadership not during easy times. We get to show leadership when things are uncertain. At a macro level, I wanted to remind you perhaps, or I wanted you to think about what's most important to leadership, because it's very easy to be busy being busy. Don't confuse being busy with being productive. Please don't confuse movement with effectiveness. Please don't suffer from death by meeting. I see so many organizations, they are so slow and so clunky versus agile and quick. And I've been working with many of the world's top leaders for the past quarter of a century. And I've seen so many leaders, when they're most successful, they're most vulnerable. It's when you are most successful that you lose the white belt mentality. It's when you're most successful that you say, I know it all, I've heard all the leadership presentations, I don't need to read another book, I don't need to find a mentor, I don't need to pivot, I don't need to mentor another teammate. If we are leaving the idea of busyness and we're thinking about what leadership is really about, I think it comes down to two primary things. And before I share those two primary things, have a look at the screen in front of you and you're going to see an interesting scene. You see, I was in Northern Ireland a while ago and I heard the story of Joey Dunlop. Joey Dunlop was a 5-time world motorcycle racing champion. Joey Dunlop was a sports superstar. Joey Dunlop was a man who was adored by the people of his nation. Sadly, Joey Dunlop was killed when the motorcycle he was driving hit a tree under wet conditions in Tallinn, Estonia. But here's what I love about the Joey Dunlop story. When no one was watching, Joey Dunlop would fill the trailers that would carry his motorcycles with food. And when no one was looking, he would drive to Romania and he'd feed hungry orphans with his bare hands. You see, my friends, and I think this might be worth writing down, but leadership is about what you do when no one is watching. Another way to think about it is leadership is about who you are in the dark. Anyone can be optimistic when you have an audience. Anyone can be kind, gracious, a great mentor, a champion of human talent when you have an audience. My question to each one of you with deep respect is, how excellent are you? How optimistic are you? How innovative are you? How kind and good and decent are you when you don't have an audience? And so when no one was looking, Joey Dunlop would drive to Romania and, as I say, feed hungry orphans with his bare hands. And when he died, 50,000 people streamed into the streets to attend his funeral. And you can see the image. 50,000 people left their homes to sing testimony to the way this man lived. 50,000 people left what they were doing to show up to honor the way this man lived. And we don't like to think about our end, no one does. But I think it's a really smart idea to connect with the shortness of life. Because then you start to live to the point. I mean, even a long life is a relatively short ride. And even the CEO gets buried next to the street sweeper. And I propose to you, and I'd just like you to reflect on it, just to consider it. But what if the things that you now believe are most important are actually least important? Maybe it's, fame, fortune, applause, being liked, the right title, the right neighborhood, the right house, the right personal net worth. What if on the last hour, just for you to contemplate, what if on the last hour of your last day, those things were completely insignificant? And what if the things you now think are the little things were actually most important? I propose to you that at the end, only two things are going to matter. Number one, who did you become? I think it's a great question. Who did you become, or who are you becoming? Did you use changed conditions to make your moonprint? Who did you become? When things were uncertain, did you build more leaders? Were you inventive? Did you maintain your strategic vision while executing flawlessly? Who did you become through your time as a leader and your time on the earth? Were you someone who became fearless, high character, noble, brave, fun, loving? Who did you become? Were you a good citizen? Were you a good neighbor? Were you honest? And were you kind? And I think the second question that's going to be really important at the end is, how many people did you help? How many people did you help? How many lives did you touch? I know you know this because you're a sophisticated leader, but may I please remind you and highlight this, please. The job of a leader is to build more leaders. The greatest privilege of leadership is the chance to elevate lives. My dad always said to me, Robin, the lotus is one of the most beautiful flowers in the world, but it grows in the dirtiest of conditions. It grows in swamps. And I want you, and I know you know this, but I want you to remember that it is in the most difficult of times that you can grow the most as a leader. Great leaders are made not in moments of ease. Great leaders are born in moments of difficulty. If you're not building more leaders every single day, then you're not leading, you're following. The job of a leader, you might want to write this down. The job of a leader is to grow more leaders. The job of a leader is to shine a light on the gifts and the talents of the people they work with. Let me end with what I believe leadership is really all about. And I think it's about being of use. To lead is to serve. When I heard about this interesting story of an Indian Maharaja. And every morning this Maharaja would wake up and he would celebrate his own funeral, complete with music and flowers, all the while chanting, "I have lived fully, I've lived fully, I've lived fully." I didn't understand why this man would get up every morning and recreate his own funeral. So I asked my father, and my father looked at me and he said, "Robin, that's easy. This man has developed a morning tradition to connect him to his own mortality." And I don't think connecting to your mortality is depressing or discouraging. I think it's actually optimistic and inspiring. Because once we connect with the shortness of life, as a matter of fact, once we become comfortable with the fact that we're all going to die, then we start to show real leadership. And we start to be truer to our mission. And we start to be braver in everything we do. And we start to live even more ethically and even more nobly. And we turn down the voice of our ego and we turn up our commitment to our cause. George Bernard Shaw was asked on his deathbed, what would you do if you could live your life over again? And he said, "I'd like to become the person I could have been but never was." So I'll just remind you with great respect that The job of a leader is to uplift lives. The job of the leader is to serve. And as my father used to say when I was growing up, he said, Robin, when you were born, you cried while the world rejoiced. Live your life in such a way that when you die, the world cries while you rejoice. Or as one father said to his son on his deathbed, be ashamed to die until you have won a victory for humankind. Thanks very much. I wish you every success.